How Awful Love Felt. Part 1. Ever felt so alone and misunderstood, and resigned to being alone? Being called mad or useless because you chose to spend time doing what everyone else does not? Even with the advancement of the world, my country was still so behind and lacking in so many things, especially in the rural areas. The most important jobs were those of nurses and teachers, and the rest was not an option. When I said that I wanted to study psychology after high school, my parents laughed and asked who I could help. We were in a third world country where the masses thought that depression or any mental health problems were only experienced by the rich. I felt claustrophobic in my own home from the day I learned how to read. It was only when I read that I learned about other places and got introduced to a different world. And that was when I began to challenge the views that I had been brought up with. I did not want to be just another guy who got a girl pregnant, married her, and spent the rest of my miserable life drinking at a bar. There was nothing worse than that monotonous life confined to that area. When I first went to the city, I was not dazzled by the bright lights, but by how I seemed to have stepped into the world that I had read about in my books. People had different jobs, women were working, and were not just housewives. When I got home, my mother criticized the way my aunt was raising her children and said it was because all she did was work and not stay at home taking care of them. But she was wrong. My cousins might have looked wealthy on the outside, but they were humble. Not only that, one of them liked reading, like me. So for the first time, I could discuss books with someone. I kept in touch with them, and my yearning to escape that village increased. I felt like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, in the gray, with nothing going on. Unfortunately, I found myself conforming to what my parents wanted me to do. They threatened to cut me off if I pursued my dreams, and slowly, I started to lose myself. I focused on my teaching career, and my books gathered dust on the shelves in my little room. When I was done, everyone was proud of me and spoke about how I seemed to have made it in life. My degree was a noose. My father came to me soon after with the prospect of me taking a bride. Most of my friends had already gotten married, and some had kids. I had never been involved with a woman, nor had I ever had the desire to. My friends spoke about the pretty girls that they saw and wanted to court. Those conversations made me want to yawn. They would tease me and say that I would end up alone, like those great minds I adored so much. It did not seem like such a bad prospect. I had never felt romantic love, nor had I ever had the desire to until he came along, and whisked my heart away, leaving me stunned at the glory of love. I said I had no intention of getting married. He told me that I was being ridiculous. I was his only son. He would not let his legacy die with me. But I told him my sister had kids. That was his legacy. He said that she was a girl. They would carry her in-laws' legacy and not his. Such obsession with things like legacy did not make sense to me. When he left, I was very upset. The last time I felt such anger was when he would not let me study what I wanted. It consumed me. My heart ached and begged to be let out of that prison. I turned to my books and lost myself to theories and ideas, reminding myself that it was not his fault. He just had a limited perception of the world. I lost the fight, permitting them to find someone for me to marry. I hoped that at least she would be kind-hearted. We would become friends. I did not hope for any love. Her name was B, short for Beatrice, and she was very shy. We did not talk much during the duration of the engagement. She was kind and good-natured, had finished high school and got along with my parents. I guess I could have ended up with someone worse. A few months before we got engaged, we were invited to a party at their house. Her cousin, who had been in the military for a few years, had just returned. Like most events, I would bring a book to make the time pass faster. It was no different this time. I had Paradise Lost, one of my favorite books. After milling around and greeting all 50 of her relatives, she had a large family, I ditched the party and went to a small corner to read my book. I was so deeply absorbed in the book that when I jumped when a voice spoke. Abashed the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. I looked up and saw the most intense eyes I had ever seen in my life. That was the one thing I would never forget, as I lay awake at night and thought about him. "You do not creep up on people like that," I said. "Sorry, I did not know this corner was occupied. Kinda needed to escape all that family drama." He shrugged. He had a very interesting accent. "You speak strangely," I pointed out. "The result of many years of travel. I have not been introduced to you yet. Are you one of my cousins?" he asked. "You do not know your own relatives?" "No, I have never seen you before in my life. Are you related to B?" I asked. "Yes, I am her cousin. Just came back from my tour. It is the first time that I am home in years. Nothing much has changed here, I see," he laughed. I could not help being curious about his travels. So for the next couple of minutes, I picked his brain about his travels and the places that he had seen. Not only that, but he also had a love for literature. When I discovered that, I was like a kid who had just discovered a candy store. There was so much I had to ask him and discuss with him, but so little time. Eventually, one of B's aunties found us and scolded us for not coming to get any food. We went home soon after, so I did not see him again after that. The auntie had called him Elliot. I softly said his name before going to sleep. I was buzzing from the way he thought and argued with me about certain works. I got off on the mental stimulation. His eyes when he spoke, intense, far away but in the present. He hooked me. From that day on, we would find each other during family events and hide away. There we would discuss the world, our country, and how it felt growing up. I found out that his family moved when he was younger, and they'd been living overseas for a while. He missed his country, so he thought to come back for a while. I hoped that he would stay longer. I had never felt such kinship with someone before. We soon began to seek each other out outside of family events. Sometimes he would visit me at the school I taught, and we would go to the library and talk about whatever was on our minds. When I found something interesting, the first person I thought of showing was him. When he was not there, I would miss him terribly. On the other hand, my wedding to be was looming and all I felt was pure dread. I wished that she was more like him. Maybe I could love her then. My thoughts surprised me, and it felt a little wrong. It was wrong to think of my friend in that way, and not only that, but it was also illegal. I was not oblivious to the existence of gay people, but I had never had an encounter with anyone who was out of my country. Even the mere whisper of being gay was enough to get someone thrown in jail in my country. That would be if the community did not find out first. But why was I even thinking of him in that way? It was not like that. I felt a thrill with him, not because of the way he touched me, and I felt funny, but because of how he mentally stimulated me. When he came so close to me, when he was whispering something funny, I did not care about his scent. No, it did not linger with me long after he had withdrawn. I was sure that it didn't. That was the only way I could feel as if I was not walking into uncharted territory with him. Then something happened that changed everything. It was a quiet afternoon during the school holidays, and we were lying in a meadow. Him telling me stories about his friends and the antics that they got up to on their days of training. "You speak so much about your friends. Did you not have someone special there?" I asked. "Yes, but I lost him," he said. "A close friend?" "No, my lover." "A man? Your lover?" I was not expecting that, nor the small thrill it felt. "Yes, I'm gay." "Shh." I looked around to make sure that there was no one around us. He raised an eyebrow and then seemed to come to a realization. "All right, I heard it was illegal to be gay here." "Are you not scared?" I asked. "Are you?" he asked. "Why would I be?" My breathing stopped when he touched my chin and made me look into his eyes. It was like he was undressing my soul, and he knew about every thought I had about him. He brought his head down, and his lips touched mine. I was not prepared for the emotions that went through me. For those few seconds that his lips were on mine, my heart sank. Then everything in me came undone when he pulled away from me. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" Fear coursed through me. I was angry at him for making me get a taste of what I could not have. At least before he kissed me, I could banish those fantasies and say that they would never be. I thought that he was a straight man just like me. He would reject me if I tried anything. The hope in his eyes vanished and was replaced with regret. I could not look at him. I got up and started to walk away. I was glad he did not call after me, because there was no guarantee that I would not turn back and try to explore what I was feeling. I was no stranger to homosexuality. I often read about it in books, but I did not form an opinion about it. All I knew was that it was a punishable crime in my country. I was not okay for the days after that. Deep dread churned in the pits of my stomach. That's how awful goodness felt after it had passed. Was this how my friends felt after a night of binge drinking? But wait, that was not illegal. I made excuses when my parents asked me to go see Beatrice. I did not want to see him. It was not safe for either of us. But I could never forget his name, which would pop up in random conversations wherever I went, almost taunting me. Fate was not kind, for I found myself in front of him again. Our engagement was finalized, so I had to be present at their house. I caught him staring at me when I arrived. I could not help it when my heart fluttered and felt longing. I missed our conversations and hoped to speak with him yet again. I bumped into him just as I was about to leave, and we locked our eyes for a while. Just as he was about to walk away, I grabbed his arm. I pulled him to an area where no one could see us. Never before had I been controlled by my actions. I could just not shake the feeling that I needed to talk to him more. "I missed you," he said. "You're not allowed to say things like that." "Then why were you looking at me? Why did you pull me into a quiet corner?" he asked, eyes defiant. "Look, I need to understand why I'm feeling this way. There is no one else I can talk to about this. Sorry. I understand how confusing it must be for you, especially in this country. I have questions, you have answers, and you're the only person who understands me. I want to know more. Know if it's right for me to go ahead with marrying B. No need to explain. I completely understand. You have to go now. Your parents must be looking for you," he said. So then, we were talking again. He told me how he had got to know he was gay, his first relationship, and coming out. He also told me about how he wished he could live freely here. He was so attached to his roots, but he would never be happy until being gay was legalized. That did not seem to be happening anytime soon. I thought that by asking questions I would somehow find out why I was being like that, and a way to stop it, so that I could live peacefully. But talking more about it, and being in his presence nearly every day, made my feelings grow stronger. I would seek him out in every crowd and keep the books he gifted me by the side of my bed. I would read his commentary on the margins with his painstakingly neat handwriting, and I would reply. Smiles were exchanged, lingering touches were more frequent, and I was finding every excuse I could to postpone marrying B. The buildup of the tension between us exploded one day, when we were in my classroom. My students had gone home, and he was helping me sort the graded assignments. Suddenly, his hand brushed against mine. We laughed nervously, but then we locked eyes, and I could not do it anymore. We met in a passionate kiss right in the middle of the desk. Sinning had never felt so good. I could not let go of him. I wanted more and more. When we finally separated, there was something different between us. I could not deny it. I was falling for that man. "I am so scared," I said to him later that day, when we were walking home. "I care about you. You do not have to be scared." I cared about him, but I could not stay away from him. So I did not. We both agreed that it would not last for long, but we would make each moment last. I figured that if I spent enough time with him, I would love for the first and last time. He would leave me and my life would carry on. I might as well have engraved the word "fool" on my arms. As each day passed, the goodbyes became more difficult, and the hellos filled with joy. We laughed, told stories, and wished we could make it last forever. When he held me, I did not feel as if I was on an earthly plane anymore. It was just us, with no rules or society to judge us harshly. One night, we risked a lot to be together. He had a friend who lived alone and was going away for a few days. I made up a lie about taking a one-time piece job to my parents, and we went away for the weekend. The nearest neighbor was a couple of kilometers away, so no one could bother us. The first thing we did, snuggle. Our previous encounters had been brief and laced with danger. We never had time to savor every moment. "Sam, I never knew you were so affectionate," he chuckled. I snuggled further into him, feeling safe and warm. "You make me like this. It is your fault." "How is it my fault that I'm so cute?" "Shut up and give me a kiss," I rolled my eyes. We stayed in bed for the rest of the day, made some food, then had a walk. There was no one around, so we could hold hands and be silly with each other without anyone raising eyebrows. That was the first night we made love. He was patient and guided me through it when I was unsure. When we were done, I was left craving more of his body. I feared that I had just picked up an addiction, but we did not seem to mind. We spent the entire weekend romancing each other and having fun with no one to stop us for a while. The night before we went home, we were hit by the reality of what awaited us back home. "You're going to marry her in 2 weeks," he said. "Please do not talk about that right now." "What use is it when the man I love will be taken away from me?" "Sorry if I don't want to talk about how much we're doomed. I just want these last few days to not have that hanging over them." "Fine, my love. Come here." He pulled me closer to him. We fell asleep. If only I could have frozen that moment. To be continued. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.